Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Itential webinar. Today, we are going to try to tackle the challenge of how to eliminate script chaos. And I'm Rich Martin, Director of Technical Marketing. And today, I am pleased and excited to have a colleague and friend with me, Peter Spragata. Peter, give a moment to talk about yourself for maybe the one or two people who don't already know you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Rich. Thanks, and thanks for having me. Let me join your party here. So, hi, folks. Peter Spragata. I'm currently chief architect here at Itential, which is a fancy way that I can please nobody and then everybody all at the same time. Now, seriously, so my role here is to really focus on looking at our product portfolio and really working to make sure that it is aligned both in terms of where it's going strategically and tactically, as well as making sure that customers it's aligned with customer use cases and what customers ultimately want to accomplish when they're looking at their automation and orchestration goals.
Yep, fantastic. Thanks, Peter. And today's topic, eliminating script chaos, is really part of the output of your role here is to create products that hit head on some of the challenges of our customers and our prospects, right?
It is. It's it absolutely is. It's a challenge that so many organizations are dealing with right now, and that is, as organizations look to embrace initiatives around both automation and orchestration, we tend to see a lot of teams that are trying to make sense of this brave new world. A lot of it is still happening organically. And because a lot of that happens organically, we tend to find that there's a lot of chaos out there. Everything
Right.
from, right, what do I build, to how do I build it, to where do I store it, to how do I share it, to how do I use it, and the list goes just on and on and on and on. And so, one of the things over the last couple of years we've really been focused on and thinking about our products is, how can we bring technology to the market that actually allows organizations that allows organizations to gain better control over this chaos. We don't want to stifle it, right? Because within chaos is we find innovation, and we want innovation, but we also need controlled innovation because we can't afford meltdowns, of the infrastructure.
Controlled chaos. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about our demo today, and really, it's a series that we want to step everyone through. But we're starting off with the idea here that people probably start off in this chaos, right? When they get started, maybe they don't know what they don't know. And in this particular sense, we want to kind of identify both builders and operators here. And I get to take the role of the operator because, quite honestly, that's where I came from. More networking than programmer background. So network engineers here. But what about your persona here as the builder, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take the persona of the builder, and that's that network engineer transformed into someone who is still a network engineer, but has started to embrace, turning to code and automation to be able to accomplish many of the things that we're doing. In a lot of respects, kind of what we're doing here as we look at the difference between a builder and operator is we're building on and kind of bringing to light, real world scenarios and real examples that are that we've encountered in meeting with our customers, with industry folks. And this really builds upon, for those of you that have been part of the Network Automation Forum and were able to attend AutoCon 2, or if you have seen the presentation online, this is really building on those concepts that we started to introduce around, the idea of the builder and the operator, and how the two really kind of come together to bring some order into this world of chaos that is that is being proliferated by just kind of scripts sprawl everywhere.
So walk me through. Now, this isn't a complete list, but this is a great list of some of the things that folks may already be going through, or as they're taking this journey, as that brave network engineer now turned programmer walks down this journey and down this path. Some of the things that they're encountering or may encounter. So on the builder side of things, what does life look like?
Yeah, so it's I love looking at this list, and we'll kind of walk through this a little bit because this is so much of this is based on even my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about the fact, and I was a network engineer for the better part of 20 years, and I helped organizations build global infrastructures, global IP infrastructures, and my background is much like so many of our listeners out there, right? It was all rooted in CLI commands, but I started to run into that struggle. Back when I was working for an operator of, deadlines rule the day, and we all face
Mm,
this. It doesn't matter your job, doesn't matter your role. We all face this problem, right? Deadlines, kind of rule the roost. We got to get stuff done. Obviously, it's how we make money, and it becomes, deadlines upon deadlines upon deadlines, and looking at the number of things as a network engineer we were asked to do, it was like, how do we start to solve the problem of deadlines? Because the one thing we knew we weren't getting is more headcount, right?
right.
But what we were getting is more network gear, more complex network gear, more complex designs. And so we started to think, well, maybe I can turn to automation to start to solve some of these challenges. And so, it seems so easy at first, right? Writing my very first Python script. And, I'll be honest with you, it was daunting. It was really daunting as a builder at the very beginning, because I didn't know, Python, the programming language, from Python, the snake.
Right.
But you know, I remembered, though, in the back of my head, there was a point in time when I didn't know the difference between show running config and show startup config. When I started in my network journey. So it did take me to step back and kind of put myself back into that learning mode to try and start to learn how I could leverage things like Python to ultimately make my job easier. But I learned a very important lesson, and it's not nearly as easy as I thought it was going to be. I think that it looks easy on the outset, and honestly, the first couple of things I built were easy, right? It's everything from just simply dropping a VLAN onto a box or running a simple show command. Yeah, it was really easy to do, but I eventually got to a place where I wanted to start to use some of the code I was writing against my production infrastructure. Man, talk about running, headlong into a brick wall.
Mm,
Trying to explain to my management, I want to run this script against our core router, and
yeah.
the blank stares start to come, and it's like, I'm sorry, you want to do what? No, I don't think so. So there was a lot of challenges we ran into, and then it was compounded by once we kind of got over some of those hurdles and I got folks comfortable with it, then it was, well, I want to start to share this with other people, right? Because other people
Right.
can benefit from the things I'm doing. Because honestly, I know better than anyone else is the core network engineer. I know what needs to be done. I am the proverbial smartest man in the room. That was my mindset back then. I've since learned, but I was the proverbial smartest man in the room back then. And my scripts were the way to go. And therefore I really wanted to share it with people, but it became very problematic. Everything from, the scripts on my laptop to how do I get people to use it to how do I get people to embrace it? And that really kind of sums up in my mind what the builder persona is all about.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thanks for that insight because like I said, many folks are either entering into this, and so they need to kind of see what that, survey what that land looks like. And this is a great head start for them. But at the same time, you kind of need the other side of it too, right? The builder is great. And if you're going to run your own scripts, it's really limiting what you can do.
Mhm.
So what about the operator? The operator here, and that's my persona. So let me speak to that because that is kind of where I came from, right? The operator and then the engineer. How do we feel about this, right? Uh, our networks are special snowflakes. You can't automate them. That's at least where we start. And even though our mentality may feel that way, we always know though we need to standardize, right? There's just a good best practice to standardize, but without automation, it's kind of like this infinite loop. Can't standardize. I got too many devices out there. Can't standardize. I need automation to do it. Don't want to automate because everything is a special snowflake. So you got to start somewhere, and automation is the key to this. So what's one of the hurdles that we had to get over? The next one, really, and this is a big one that pops up all the time. And I think we're being nice here. I don't need to learn any languages. Actually, I don't want to learn any languages.
And
Is
there you
really what
go.
it's all about.
There you go. There you go. Exactly.
Or maybe to say it, I don't need to learn any languages. You
That's
need to
right.
learn them, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
that's one of them. Quite honestly, that's kind of why I got into network engineering way back in the day. I didn't want to be a programmer,
Mhm.
and so network engineering gave me a field to focus on that was really deep. But here we are, where it's like now the convergence of all this is around automation and orchestration, and so it helps folks to understand some of that, even if you have a little bit of a background. This is a big one for me. There's an entire, network engineers. We love our acronyms. We love our technology. We revel in learning new network things and spitting out new acronyms to one another to know what we to prove that we know something. But when I walk into the world of developers, that's a whole different world. There's all new tools, all new acronyms, things I don't understand, and now I'm in a foreign land. So I have to ask a lot of questions that as a network person that I might not be used to asking. Like, what is this stuff?
Exactly.
I'm used to people coming to me asking like, what is this? What is this VXLAN thing? What is this? Right. And so I might be a master of the networking domain, but when I get into the developer domain, that's a whole new thing.
Mhm,
Right. And it's not
mhm.
just learning languages, it's learning all the prerequisite tools in order to make all this stuff work.
I think and it's also it's also a new way of doing things, right? It's
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's a very new way of doing things, and that kind of challenges, and we all know this, right? Anything that challenges the status quo is always going to run into friction
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. And that kind of feeds into this next thing is yeah, I have a colleague, Peter, who's the guy churning out scripts. But if I get my hands on that file or whatever it is, I have no idea how to run this thing. Like, what do I even do? Where do I get started? That's a challenge. And I don't like that. Like I said, that's an uncomfortable place for me to be. So on one hand, I'm told I need, and I even realize automation is really, I can see the value of it. I see my colleagues doing it, but me getting started, this is a hurdle for me. But let's say Peter helps me out one time, and just one time, gets the script running in my environment, but then it breaks a week later, right? And of course, that's not my fault. Whose fault is it? It's Peter's fault.
no,
He
it is
broke the
not
script.
my fault. It is
I,
not my fault.
Ironically, this is my opportunity as the networking person to blame something else. The way we're always blamed when something breaks, it's always the network. So ironically, I might really like this when I get to point at Peter going, "You broke the script, man." But at the end of the day, when we realize on the operations side just how what it takes to run all these scripts, and this one is like the dagger in the heart. I don't want to admit this because a lot of my world is around CLI, right? My own version of command line with CLI interfaces. But I might have to admit, running automations through a GUI makes a lot of sense. It's a lot simpler, right?
Mhm,
It's a
mhm.
lot simpler. And I hate to burst Peter's bubble on this last point, but he may think he's the smartest guy in the room, but we all know better that the network engineer is the smartest guy in the room and knows better than everyone else.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's talk about what the reality looks like. We've walked around some of the challenges. When somebody starts to get like really dig their feet into this and takes that role as the network engineer turned automation engineer, what does this actually look like, Peter?
Yeah, so I think, and this really tries to encapsulate this journey,
Mhm.
because as that builder, right, my world is now becoming a world of writing code, and that's where my focus, that's where my mindset is, because I'm really focused now on solving challenges, whether that's writing code to address configuration issues, whether it's writing code to address operational issues, whether it's writing code to address software upgrades, whatever that might be. I'm now very much in this tunnel mindset of I want to write code. As I get that code to certain stages, I want to be able to commit that code, right? I want to get it into my version control and get it through my test pipelines and making sure that it's all running and working the way it's supposed to be. And then finally, at the end of the day, I need to publish that code because,
Right.
right. And anyone will tell you, and any developer will tell you, right, that the reason we write code, mostly the reason we write code is for other people. We want other people to use our code. That's why we're writing it. And so that's really where our focus is write, commit, publish. Um, the real challenge comes, I think, after we get through the publish step, right? Because now I want other people to use this code, and now I've got to figure out how can I get this code in other people's hands. Assuming I've written just and this can be a very simple, say Python script. It doesn't have to be overly complex, but I want to get this in the operations team's hands because I don't do operations. The operations team or the engineering team is doing operations. I write code. So I work with trying to I go over and I meet with my good friend Richard, and I tell Richard, we need to get this going for your team. So here, let me kind of help you and let me get this installed for you and get you trained up on how to use it. Effectively, I'm turning you into a SME, right?
Yeah.
That's really what I'm doing. I'm
Right.
turning you into SME. Richard is now the new SME.
And quite honestly, how hard can this be? I mean, this is Peter I'm talking about. There must not be too much to this, right?
Precisely. Exactly right. Exactly right. But here's where my problem comes into play.
Okay.
is that, and look, man, I know that you are inundated with things you've got to do, right?
Right.
You don't have one thing you're trying to do. You're trying to balance 10 or 15 or 20 things all at the same time. So the challenge is, sure, we spend a couple hours, I get you trained up. You've gotten proficient at using my script. The challenge is you're not touching my script every day, right?
Right.
Uh, that's our problem. And so now you come back to it 2 weeks from now, and sure enough, I'm at home, I'm relaxing. It's a Saturday afternoon, the game's on. I've just cracked open my favorite beverage. I got my little snack tray, and there it is, right? The Slack message goes off. Damn it, Richard. He's got problems and he can't run the script. And as I kind of roll through the explicitives in my head, now it's time to get on the call and
Yeah.
retrain Richard, because I got to show him how to do it again. I got to show you how to do this again, dude. I mean, come on, it's just not that hard, to figure this out. So,
Well, clearly, as a network engineer, I'm very versed in documentation. So, I should be able to go back to my thorough documentation and figure this out, Peter.
yeah, exactly, right. The thorough, well-articulated 3 sentences that represent the documentation should give you everything you. But look, here's the thing, right? I want to get back to my game. I really do.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this game all week. So you know what? Hell with it. Just why don't you send me an email with the output? Let me look and see what's going on. It's not worth it, I think, to go through this, online. Just send it to me and I'll figure it out, right? Because I don't have time to deal with this right now. The big game's on. So
Yeah, and this is, I mean, this is the barrier, right? This is literally the barrier. I get excited, right? Hey, I'm the SME, I get to do this, but then I realize all the stuff that has to be taken care of in order just to run this script. And if one of those things changes, I don't touch the environment often enough to be an expert to know what it means. By the way, a lot of these errors that you might get for dependencies, they don't make any sense. Even probably to a network, I mean, to a developer, they don't make much sense, right? But
well,
you already know what to follow up and do. You've already done this before 100
of,
times. I haven't.
of course, because and it always works in my environment and on my machine. I just don't understand what kind of gremlins you got running around your house that are messing with your computer, because it works fine in every other environment I put it in. For
Right.
some reason, it never works in yours.
Right. And when you short circuit this process, and it makes sense, like, especially if there's a need, you want to get your game, I need to get something done on the network. The automation is supposed to do it for me. And if we're going to spend another 2 hours figuring this thing out, we would both agree, now just go and do the thing and let's get this over with.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. At the end of the day, that's what it's about.
And there's their challenge right there. And that's the chaos moment right there. This is the chaos moment. And if this happens with one automation, it can happen with a dozen automations. If it's happening with one type of automation platform, where Python, Ansible, it can happen with many, many more. And so this is that chaos effect we're referring to.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So let's do a fun demo. Peter,
Let's
let's go through this in real time. You are now relaxing on on a Saturday, about to watch the game, and now you get to step me through what this looks like as an operator. How about
That's
that?
right. Let's do it. Let's do
Okay.
it. I mean, it's not that hard. It's few easy steps. We'll get you on your way.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, yeah, exactly. Let's get into a terminal and let's get this
Peter,
party
you
started.
told me I needed to be in this terminal thing.
That's right.
You got an automation for me to run.
Where is it? I do.
I don't see
so
it.
it's in Git. It's in Git. So let's start. Go ahead and just I'll give you the URL so you can clone it down to your machine.
I'm sorry.
It's going to be Git.
Git.
So
okay.
you have Git. You have Git. Git. Git.
Yes, okay, that's not
good. There we go. Git. There we go. Git. Let's so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna clone a repo down to your machine. So let's just talk for you for a moment. We're gonna go ahead and clone a repo down to your machine.
What is that? Clone a repo.
Yeah,
I just need the file, man.
No worries. It's in the Git repository. So we keep things in the repository because there we can kind of keep track of what's going on. We get a nice audit trail of changes and version control and kind of a lot of control around it. I know you don't care about that stuff, but this is kind of our starting point. So we got to get this down on your machine so that you can ultimately run it.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So we're going to use a command called clone. So it's git space clone.
Clone.
And then we're going to do another space, and we're going to do https:// gitlab.com. slash hash digest.
This hash?
Yeah, not quite. The
Oh,
word hash. The word hash. There you go.
wow.
Hash digest, all one word. Yep, digest slash scripts. And a quick enter will get us rolling here.
So this will get me running.
Oh boy.
What's
So we
that?
don't so you don't have Git on your machine.
You didn't tell me to. I don't even know what that is.
Okay. So all
Why
right.
is it
So we
already
got,
on there?
well, you have to. So it doesn't come part of. So you're using Fedora here. I can see.
That's
So
what you told me to use. Yeah.
yeah. Have you installed packages with Fedora in the past?
Uh, no.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So all right. Well, first thing we have to, we got to get installed in your system. So
Okay.
there's a utility called DNF. So
DNF.
and you have to do this as root. So hopefully you have root privileges on your machine. I hope you do.
Yeah, I installed it. So what do I
Okay.
do
So
here?
so if we do a sudo sudo
Okay.
and then a space and then the
Uh-huh.
DNF and then a
Okay.
space
Okay.
and then install and then git.
Just GIT.
Git. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Hey, there we go.
Hey, there we go. We got something going. All
All
right,
right.
we're off and running. We're looking better. We're looking better. Let's take just a moment to run through what we get actually installed on your machine. Now, this is going to give us the ability to pull the script down. Go ahead and accept that.
Okay.
This is going to give us the ability to pull the script down, but then we'll have to do a few other things to actually kind of get it up and running. And I should have had you check here before we got started, but I'm assuming you've got a version of Python installed on your system. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's make sure we can get the script pulled down, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay, great.
Okay, it said it finished.
All right, so if we want to just go ahead and bring back our git command, I think it's
So
up
I
arrow
can
a
just
couple of times. There you go. There you go.
Hey,
And,
I know the up arrows.
right.
I've known that for a long time. So I should be able just to hit enter now.
You should, yeah, you should. And you should
Okay.
be able to get so. Okay, great.
Okay, so what
Fantastic.
did that actually do then? You got to
So-
explain this piece to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Git is the version control system we use. Clone is effectively saying go out to the version control system and bring down all of the scripts that are in this repository, and the repository name is called scripts.
Okay, so
yeah.
once I've done this git clone thing, I should never have to do this again, right?
No, that's not quite. So every time you want the latest set of scripts, you would have to pull in the latest using a different command, but using a pull command. We'll get into all of that a little bit later.
Okay. All right.
Now, if everything went right, you should now have a new folder called scripts on your hard drive here.
All right.
So,
Yep.
Okay, great. We do. So we can just go ahead and change into that directory.
Okay.
Okay,
should be a
great.
bunch of stuff in here, right?
There should be a bunch of stuff. So if you just do in fact, if you use the tree command, you can kind of get a quick look at the layout.
All right. I'm learning something new here.
Yeah. So go
Just
ahead
hit
and
enter.
there. Yep. Tree is what we're looking for. Okay, great. So yeah, we've got some scripts.
Okay.
So we've got some scripts that will effectively, so, as you know, our environment is standardized on Arista EOS. So we've got some scripts that will actually do some things, and hopefully they're relatively straightforward. Can you go ahead and change directly into the Arista EOS direct? Let me just kind of walk you through this and kind of a refresher of what's going on here, because I want you to be comfortable about what these things are doing.
Yeah. Okay. I can do that, and then I should see some files in here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is all the scripts then, right?
Correct. These are all the scripts that are currently in the repository. So let's just do something simple, like if you want to just cat out the show version.py file.
To do what?
I'm sorry. So we're going to take a look at what's in this file. So we're going to use a command called cat, which is short for catalog. So cat space.
Okay.
And then show underscore version.py.
Okay.
And just go ahead and hit enter there. Okay.
Oh,
so
this?
Okay, so this is Python. This is a script written in Python. This is actually using a library called NetMiko, which is a fairly common and standard library in the network automation community. It's been around for quite some time. It's mostly based on the tremendous work done by Kirk Byers and community supported. But what NetMiko does is effectively it allows us to connect to network devices, and in a way that allows us to send CLI commands, the same command you type, and then get the results back.
Okay. The one thing I
So,
do see here is show version. I understand that.
yep. So that's what effectively this does is it runs show version.
Okay.
And you can see it's super secure because we've got our username and our password embedded right in the script.
I mean,
right?
just like my Excel spreadsheet.
Exactly. But we need to create, and so if you go ahead and just do a change directory back one, so we get back to the root.
Okay.
Now we're going to have to go through a process to actually create an environment. You can't just run this as is. We need to get some dependencies installed.
Okay.
So let's start by let's go ahead and do a Python space hyphen version.
Python space. You mean dash dash?
Yes, dash
Okay.
version. Let's just make sure we. Oh boy. It might be. Let's try Python 3. Sorry, the number 3, Rich. The number 3.
The number you need to.
There we go. There we go. Okay, great. All right, we have Python installed. That's a good thing because without Python, we're really in trouble. Okay. So now go ahead and create yourself a virtual environment, and we're going to work in that virtual environment as we go forward.
So what?
Yeah.
What is that? What is a virtual environment? Like a virtual machine?
Yeah, something like that. So how do I describe Python virtual environments in Tencent? I tell you what.
Look, wait a minute. Do I need to do that to run this thing?
Well, so we've got some requirements we have to get installed. The easiest way to do it in virtual environment, but yeah, this is really becoming problematic. I mean, it's just there's so many things here that I do intrinsically. I didn't think about, that I don't think about. So maybe there's a better way we can tackle this.
I mean, you know what? I thought going into this too, this would be pretty simple. You just show me how to grab the thing and then I run it.
Yeah. Well, it literally should be that easy.
Right. But by the way, if I'm the SME for my team, I feel like I might have to show a lot of people this stuff myself.
Yeah. Well, I've got maybe a different way we can approach this.
Okay. I'm all for it at this point because I mean, are we like halfway done here?
No, we're not. We haven't even gotten to the point of even attempting to run the script yet. I'll be honest.
Okay. Okay. So there's a lot more of this kind of esoteric to me kind of stuff.
And honestly, we're like halfway through the first period here of the game. So I think we need to move this along.
Okay. All right. I get it. It's a little more complicated than I initially thought going into this. And perhaps you share the same thing because of the intrinsic, almost like subconscious knowledge that you have. You just do the thing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do any of these things.
Yeah, because ultimately at the end of the day, right, we've got to get the environment installed. We've got to get dependencies installed. Once those dependencies are installed, now we can finally run the thing to do the thing to make the thing happen. And now we got all the things going on, and that's a good thing.
Right, and you're right. And in your mind, it's like, well, this is taking too long. We all have things to do. And in my mind, I'm thinking the same thing. This is taking too long. I've got things to do. If automation doesn't save us time because of all the prerequisites to run this thing, and I've got to do some form of this every single time, I could have just done this by hand.
Yeah.
I could have just done this by hand. And that's part of the challenge, right? To shift back into the way we've always been doing things because it's always been more difficult and more complicated than we initially thought.
I mean, yes. I mean, I'm thinking through everything we've been going through to simply run show version.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy smokes.
Okay, so you mentioned there's a better way. What do you have that makes this easier?
Yeah, so the team's been working on building out some new infrastructure. So I guess now's as good a time as any to go ahead and share it with you. You mind if I go ahead and take the screen share and
absolutely
I want to show you something we've been working on here. I think you're gonna like it.
Okay.
So go ahead and get myself shared here. So we've been working on setting up and deploying a new automation gateway, specifically the Itential automation gateway. And with the Itential automation gateway, we now have the ability to essentially do everything that we've been trying to walk through very manual steps. We've been doing it in such a way that it can all dynamically be done. And therefore I can kind of set up an environment to allow you to make use of it.
Okay.
So let me just kind of show you what we've got going on. So this is the current version of IG. And I'm going to use the CLI command line interface right now to work with the server and just kind of show you what we've got set up. But I'm terrible at talking and typing at the same time. So
We all are. Yeah.
there we go. I already missed a command. Okay, so what I'm going to show you here is you remember we kind of did that clone here for the scripts. Well, here it is. In fact, let me go ahead and take a little bit of deeper look into this, just to kind of show you. Whoops, I really can type.
I believe you.
Scribe. There we go. So here's our scripts repository, and there's the URL. If you remember, you kind of typed this with the git clone.
That's right.
But you had to install git. You had to learn the git commands. And honestly, if you're going to only use them, once every few weeks, you're going to have a cheat sheet, right? 10 miles long. That's going to take you just as long to try and find.
Well, actually, I guarantee you, I'm not going to have my cheat sheet nor my ample documentation, because that's reality.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, so let's try and see if we can't make this a little bit easier. So once we got our repository set up, we can now build a set of services against that. So if I look at the set of services, I've got a bunch of services that I've already defined on this gateway. And you can kind of see them here by their name and kind of what they do. So we were working with show version. So here I actually have a service called show version. And as a matter of fact, when I go in, I can start to take a look at this. I can say service show version. We can see that it is a Python script, which is what you actually just catted out on your terminal line. In fact, there you can see it, right? It's in the Arista EOS folder, just like you saw. There's that show version.py. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to be able to execute this. But we're going to eliminate the need to go through all the steps that you were going through. In fact, we only got maybe a third of the way through the process, because what we still needed to do is we needed to create a virtual environment. We needed to install all of the dependencies. And those dependencies, by the way, if I were to just give you a sense of it, it's the NetMiko library, but we still have to get it installed.
Right. Right.
And here's the other problem, right? Is that depending on when different libraries are released and how different things might get pinned as dependencies, you could have a different version of NetMiko than I'm developing against. And now we got a new problem on our hands.
Right.
Because I wrote it using a very specific feature of the latest. You don't have the latest, and therefore you go to run it, you get an error. I never see the error, so now we're back into that same scenario. Right?
You broke it. Exactly.
No, you broke it. Fine on my sheet.
but that goes back to what I was saying. Like, I have to run. So if I'm doing this the way we intended to originally, I have to go back and remember to do the git thing to make sure I have the latest thing. That's Otherwise, right. I'm running an old version, and then we could be. And if something's not working, then we're talking two different languages, because we're talking two different scripts, right?
That's exactly right.
So,
and right now we're just dealing with a Python script. I mean, imagine this really compounds itself when we start getting into frameworks like, say, Ansible or Terraform or whatever the case is, because now not only do you have the underlying dependencies, but then you got the framework dependencies, and you got the syntax changes between writing code versus writing a playbook versus writing a plan versus writing heaven only knows what else. I mean, it's just, we really start to compound upon ourselves, right?
Right.
One of the other interesting things, though, that and we didn't even get to this part on as I was trying to show you how to run the script natively, but I think one of the things that makes this really unique is we also have the ability to do input validation, because it is important that when you run these things that you're providing the right sets of input. Otherwise, scripts don't run.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And so we actually have a capability here called decorator, where I can actually define that input, and therefore I can make sure the input you're giving me is the input I expect. So much so that I've got a decorator that has been already set on this particular script. I'm going to go ahead and just show it to you real quick. And decorators are defined using just standard JSON schema. Let me do a quick show version. And so I know this is hard to read. So it's a lot of just JSON. We really only have actually two input parameters. We got one called format, one called host. But one of the things that we did with IGCTL is we tried to make it really easy. So don't worry about this command. If you just remember this command, and that is I can do a run. Whoops. Python script show version. And if I go into help, by the way, there's lots of copious amounts of help, as you can see, that embedded right into the CLI. But one of the unique things that we can do is we can use the use command. Actually, let me do this. Let me clear that. And let me add use. Whoops, not user, use. And so what's kind of neat about this is if you can't remember what you have to pass in, this will actually tell you, oh, to run the service, I have to pass in some additional values, otherwise it's going to fail. So really all you've got to remember now is IAGCTL, run Python script, the name of the service, in this case, show version, and then -- use, and it'll tell you what parameters you have to pass in or what parameters are available to be passed in. So once I've got that information, now I can actually go ahead and I can run the script. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and run Python script, show version, and I'm going to go ahead and set host equal 172.20.20.3. And so that's going to go ahead and that's actually going to do everything I was just trying to teach you how to do.
Okay.
And so I know you're a network guy, so I know this makes you feel good.
That makes me feel comfortable. Yes.
You're at home.
I see that. And you know what makes me more comfortable? The fact that I only saw, I see that I only have to type in one thing.
That's right. One command. And what it did is it took care of all of the git clone business. It took care of all of the virtual environment setup. It took care of installing all the dependencies for you. It took care of inputting our validating our input. In other words, and just for fun, let me get rid of this because you saw when I typed use, that was a required parameter. It will tell you, host was required. So, so now I could use that, -- use, and I can see, sure enough, yeah, host is indeed a required parameter. I also happen to have another one here, format, which is optional, but I could use that as well. So I could do something like -- set format equal JSON. I know you don't want this output, but others might. Now I'm getting the output as JSON format back. So these are just different ways that we can use optional components.
Okay. This makes me feel a lot better about my my foray into network automation. I like this a lot better. I'm not going to admit to you that I'm a simpleton when it comes to this stuff, but I will admit to you that I like things simpler. How about that?
I completely understand. Completely understand.
And this simplifies a lot of very complicated things I would rather not do, and you would rather not walk me through.
Correct. Because now I can just give you the command to run, and you can go to your terminal, you can run the IAGCTL command, and you don't have to get involved with all of this stuff that has to happen in the background.
Correct.
But I do have one more thing I want to do here for you, because you made the comment as an operator, and I took it very much to heart that you've got so much going on in your world. Even dropping to a terminal and running one command can be a challenge at times, right? Because you still have to remember the one command. Sure, it's one command, but it's one command for every service that's out there, right? And you look at we've got a number of services that are already available here, but we actually have stood up, in addition to having the CLI capability, we've also stood up the Itential automation service as well. So I've gone ahead and I've prior to this weekend, because I had a feeling something might happen this weekend, I've gone ahead and I've given you access to our Itential automation service web console.
Okay.
Which is the SaaS service that's hosted. So you should have those credentials now in your inbox. So why don't you go ahead and log into that, and maybe we can make your life even a little bit easier yet.
Well, you know what? I don't mind doing the CLI stuff, but I do have a lot of folks on my team that would probably rather not use it. So I'll let you walk me through this just so I can have that in the toolkit as well.
Outstanding.
All right. So let me share my screen. All right. So yes, I did get my login and my sign in. So I'm going to sign in now. Uh-oh. Let me reload. Try that. There we go. And I think it said go under operations. Now walk me through what I'm looking at here.
Yeah,
just really briefly.
Yeah, so real brief, this is the Itential automation service that we've stood up, and this is now sitting. This is doing everything you were just seeing me do from the CLI. It's just now giving you a web UI for being able to execute these
Okay.
services. Because the reality is, right, and I know you and I have worked together long enough. I know you really could care less about whether it's a Python script or an Ansible playbook or a Terraform thing or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
You
Correct.
just want to do the thing,
I
right? We
just
keep
want to
talking
run the
about doing the
thing.
thing,
Yeah.
do the thing. So if you on the left side, if you go ahead and click on
Mhm.
the automations,
Okay.
and this list should now look familiar to you. This is the
It
same
does.
list you saw, right?
Correct.
So we've tried to make it really easy, for your team for you and your team to kind of get started using these automations. So in this particular case, I know that we're going to work on getting a new VLAN deployed, but let's take a look at what VLANs are currently out there. So
Okay.
if you go ahead and select the show VLANs automation,
All right.
and I think we were working with 172.20.20.3, if I remember correctly.
I got, yep.
Let's just go ahead and run that. And we'll go ahead and we'll launch that. And if you switch over to the activities tab, we can actually see this running in fact, it's already completed. It's 1.84 seconds.
I like
Sure.
that.
I don't
I
think we
like
got
that a
Git
lot.
installed in 1.84 seconds. So
I'm
and
already seeing value. How about that?
that's awesome. And now if you go ahead and click on it,
Okay.
you should be very happy with what you're seeing now. This should
Okay.
make you feel
Yes,
very
this is
much at home.
exactly what I need.
But now I see we are missing VLAN 20, and I know that's what your team's trying to get deployed
That's right.
today. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead back to our automations because
Okay.
we have a service for that, and it's under the Manage VLAN. And this one's a little bit different because now you can see that we've got some additional parameters that we can set
Mm-hmm.
up. And so this is all based on, if you remember that decorator I was talking to you about.
Yeah.
This is all being dynamically rendered from that decorator. So I built the decorator and it kept it in my code repository. And then IAG is able to take that and then dynamically create a form. So I, as a developer, am in control of what the input is, and I can force you to fill out that input before you actually run the script. And therefore, you can't accidentally run a script with invalid input or missing input.
Yeah. And that's great because as a network engineer, we've all been there.
That's right.
We've,
That's
we've,
exactly right.
we've missed an input and done something either really, really bad or maybe not so bad.
And the beauty of this is this input validation doesn't change regardless of the underlying automation technology. Whether I wrote this in Python or I built an Ansible playbook or a Terraform form or whatever it is I did,
Mm-hmm.
this stays consistent. So your team gets a very consistent way of running the automation, regardless of the technology, and providing input to it because it's all the same. You don't have to have a fundamental understanding of these different tools and technologies that
Yeah.
are being used.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So step me through here. So under host, I
Yeah.
should be able to put the same host.
Yep, same host. Obviously, the state. If you just drop that down, we got state absent present.
Okay.
This is present. We're deploying the VLAN.
Okay.
Our VLAN ID. I think the change window called for VLAN ID 20 in this case.
Yep.
And we can assign an arbitrary name, to it. Test VLAN or whatever arbitrary name you want, or you don't need anything. It's not a required field.
So I'll just put test in there.
Yeah, and then we can go ahead and run that.
Okay.
So that will go ahead and that will kick off. And again, same thing. It's
Mhm.
building the environment on the backside so that what is being run is consistent with how I've built it. You
Yeah.
haven't had to worry about dependencies and libraries and NetMikos and Pythons and whatnot. So anyway, so we've completed now, and we
Okay.
can now go into our manage VLAN. And again, you should be something that sees something here that's making you very comfortable.
Yeah. This is exactly what would have taken me a little bit longer than what this executed in. And that's the point. Like you've
That's
saved me
exactly the
time.
point.
You've saved
Exactly.
me time. Not just in running it, but all the setup leading up to just to run it, right? That we had to walk through before.
That's right. It's all about saving time and offering consistency to your team, right? So therefore, it's not you don't have to learn Ansible, and you don't have to learn Terraform, and you don't have to learn Python, and you don't have to learn this, and you don't have to learn that. You don't have to learn all these things. You've got now a consistent way by which you execute automations in your environment.
Right.
In fact,
And,
just
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you finish off.
I was going to say, just for the heck of it, we can even validate that this is
Yeah.
all live and in living color.
Absolutely.
We can do show VLANs or we can do
Uh-huh.
show running. It's up to you. Plug in your same host address, and we will see that if we've done our job right, go back into activities and let's take a look at the show VLANs. And Lo and
There it
behold,
is.
VLAN 20 is there. Maintenance window
There it
can be
is.
closed.
And the thing I was going to say is now we both can feel comfortable putting this in the hands of more members of our team who may not have this your skill set or my skill set as a network engineer, right? And this is where we can start to multiply the value of that automation.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yep, that's absolutely correct.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Peter, for walking us through all of that. I know we took a roundabout way. Usually we go right to the point, but I think it's important for folks that are either, perhaps suffering through this now or will be suffering through this in the future, that to know what the solution set can look like for them. And so, as we kind of conclude this, walk us through what we saw here. We started off with the chaos,
That's
right?
right.
And now we're seeing something that doesn't look like chaos.
That's right. And that's exactly right. And that's what it's all about. It's all about, we've got builders, we've got operators, and we recognize that they both fill a very important function. And it's important that we create a way for them to communicate so that they can each leverage and build on each other's strengths. The builders are very good at building automations, right? That's what their focus is, and they do a good job of it. Conversely, the operators are fantastic at running the infrastructure. And making sure that the infrastructure is consistently kept to a high standard of uptime and performance, and et cetera. And so by calming that chaos, we can now get the builders in their comfort place of writing code, commit code, publish code through the Git repository, but we can separate the operator from that. And by doing it through Itential Cloud, we can make it a very seamless way that operators can now consume all of the exposed services and execute them against the infrastructure. So therefore, whether you're the NOC or the SOC or the cloud team, or yes, even if you're a Richard, you can actually be able to consume automation and consume it in a way that you maintain productivity without having to go down the path of becoming a developer, learning development methodologies, or learning all of these esoteric tools that developers use to ultimately build a lot of this automation.
That's fantastic, Peter. Thank you so much for walking us through that. That's giving us like the high level representation of what we just did on the command line and through the SaaS interface. That's awesome. And you know what? I think after something like that, we can kind of rebuild our friendship, and maybe I can come over and have a beverage and watch the game with you at some point now.
Absolutely. Hey, we got the maintenance one through cloud. It's only halftime. We got absolutely. Come on over and let's watch the second half of the game and enjoy it, because we know that the infrastructure, the maintenance window is done, and it was done successfully.
There you go. There you go. And with that, we will conclude this webinar. I had a lot of fun, Peter. This was great. I look forward to the rest of them in this series. But for all of you in the audience, if you like what you saw and you want to check it out, there is a 30-day unlimited free trial for you. So you just sign up at itential.com/free trial and get going. And everything you saw in our demo today, you can start to take advantage of in your own environment with your own Peter and your own Richard.
Exactly.
Peter, thank you so much for the time here. Looking forward to working with you again.
Thanks, Richard. Been fantastic.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.